So I think in today's episode, the core format is to introduce an idea to then think about the actions and the impact. What Alex is clearly saying today, and the idea put forward from Alex, is to think about your customers not as a number, but as people.
To be honest, a lot of businesses are product-centric, which means operational excellence and product superiority. And if you have that, you're really gonna win, right? Because there's nobody else like that, and you're providing these great benefits for customers, and you don't have to be that personalized or that human-centric in that respect. People are going to be loyal to you because there's nobody else like you. I don't know if you can call that really loyalty, because to me, loyalty has this aspect of this emotional commitment.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Oh, there you go.
There we go, huh? This
Oh,
is it's called show business. So this was our first episode of the Trust Builders. So everyone's very, very welcome. And I suppose, Alex, just for everyone, just to introduce ourselves so that we know who's on the call, and maybe if you just give a quick introduction.
Sure thing, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to always chat with you, but especially to talk about this topic. Alex Genov, I lead customer research for Zappos. It's an online first and online only retailer in the US that's turning 25 this year. My background is in experimental social psychology, which I've been applying to the business world for close to 25 years now, in industry spanning insurance and personal finance and some B2B, and now Zappos for almost 10 years. And yeah, this topic of consumer trust and customer trust is very near and dear to my heart. I met Chris years and years ago when he was hosted me for this amazing event in Belfast at Queen's University, and I wore this jacket at this event. So now I'm in honor of that time. I put on this jacket again. Chris is not.
Alex, I'm gonna have to match you with the jacket. I think that's what's missing from this podcast session. So we've got the goatee. I'm just missing the jacket, you know.
Yeah, let's have a side chat about show business and personal branding, Chris. But you are to me one of a kind human being. I mean, you're not only a successful entrepreneur, but also such a kind person, and the way you treated me when you invited me out in my mind. And I think there's no better person than you to talk about this, about the door board, which is a human-based business and emotion-based business. So it's an absolute pleasure.
Superb. And just by way of introduction, my name is Chris Johnston. I'm the CEO of Door Board. And yes, Alex, we met, I think it's certainly 5-6 years ago, where we were launching the Human Experience Academy at Queen's University, focusing on how do we bring customer and employee experience together. And throughout those years, we've kept in touch. We met up in Salt Lake City last year. We had, I see that Susan's joined the call. We went out for dinner with Susan and discussed all these various topics. But maybe just ask, trust and building trust is really important, Alex. Why now? Why, we had talked about this as an idea, ultimately to publish a book around the whole idea of customer and employee trust. Why is this such an important topic for today and in today's business world?
Sure thing. That's a fundamental question, Chris, and I've been thinking about it for years now. I don't know how I started getting interested in this. I remember years ago going to a conference and listening to Frederick Kelt about. He was talking about customer experience, and he mentioned another question that he had developed in addition to the Net Promoter Score, which was the trust question. The way he phrased it really stuck with me, which is, let's say, a business always has my best interest as a customer in mind. So it can be a industry. Retailers always have my best interest as a customer in mind. It can be Zappos always has my best interest as a customer in mind. And a few years ago, we started using it to track that sort of customer sentiment. And what motivates me to use these measures is my background in psychology and in personality and emotions and individual differences, those concepts that come from psychology. And one way I've approached business problems is to think about the metaphor of business as a person. So the business customer relationship as interpersonal relationship. Because we talk about loyalty, we talk about all these essentially emotions and behaviors that are interpersonal based. And so trust is one of those really important components of that. And over the years, not only have we been tracking it, but we've been correlating it to some business metrics and that more score and other metrics. And it really seems to be a very important motivator and variable.
Superb. So I think in today's episode, the core format is to introduce an idea to then think about the actions and the impact. So I think what Alex is clearly saying today and the idea put forward from Alex is to think about your customers, your customers not as a number, but as people. And you've actually written extensively about this. You've a really fantastic book on the very subject. And I think the actions that you're proposing is a new way to ask the question. So instead of the recommendation NPS, you're reframing it around this perception. Do you have my best interests in mind? And I think what's really interesting is that when I was looking at the academic research on trust, a lot of people talking about it being an expectation and the formula being, credibility plus reliability plus that form of connection. And it's really interesting that you're talking about this idea of keeping the best interests of individuals in mind, which talks to the idea of consistency, reliability, and transparency. So it seems that a small change for a big benefit and big impact, Alex, in terms of introducing this in a new reframe for organizations. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you replace the net more question. I'm suggesting that you add this because if you think about, I think we need to step back and understand the purpose of all those questions because a lot of NPS is very popular. It's a C-level metric. It's widely adopted. From an academic perspective, I'm sure academicians would question its reliability, validity, all that stuff. To me, these are two completely different ball games: academic research and applied research in the business setting. And people should be aware of that, and they should not judge a measure or a metric on its academic merits versus they're completely different purposes and different settings and contexts. But we need to understand what we're measuring. So NPS is measuring loyalty. That's the purpose of this, is not to measure satisfaction. The idea was to initially companies were measuring customer satisfaction. How satisfied are you with this product or service? From 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, whatever. So I think the insight and the contribution of Fred Raquel was to say there's more to that. There's this element of you're so satisfied, you're so happy that there's this emotional reaction that you kind of itch to go tell others to use this product. You become an evangelist. And so it's a measure of loyalty. And conversely, if you're so unhappy, you're going to tell others, don't do it. So it goes beyond satisfaction into word of mouth promotion. And right, it is a real effect. I mean, we've all experienced this. If you go and have this great meal, then you're tweeting about it, or you're posting on Instagram and telling your friends. If you're having an okay experience and you say, yeah, I was satisfied, right? Then you may not have this extra push to tell others or to really be an advocate for this brand. So I'm saying that you need to add this to your toolbox. And the research that we've done with these kinds of measures, for example, is to predict NPS using ratings of trust and ease of use and um, ease of search, for example, in the context of online shopping for shoes and clothes, showing that all these metrics predicted whether somebody is a promoter or detractor. But the really interesting insight there was that the measure of trust was the strongest predictor out of all these other ones, right? And if you think about this whole model or metaphor of think of the relation between a customer and a business as an interpersonal relationship, then even now I'm toying with the idea of adding ratings of even of respect, right? That this business respects me as a right, and intuitively it feels like it's gonna add to this picture of like you said, the main idea is if you treat your customers as more than numbers, as individuals, you're gonna earn this goodwill and this good feeling that translates into consistent purchase behavior and consistent, patronizing of the business, which means that's what we call loyalty.
I think that's a really fantastic point. And I think, how do we get, if we accept that trust is an important concept to measure, the time is ripe for that. I've kind of the review of all the research that says, we're at the lowest ebb of trust. We've analyzed, 750,000 reviews of Glassdoor for Fortune 1000. Its trust has dropped by 10% since COVID. It seems to be that we're in this trust crisis. And obviously, you have others like Edelman's Trust Barometer, which measures, trust towards business, society, political, and media, all suggesting that trust is low. How do you get business executives then to sit up, Alex? You talked about the predicting and the link to bottom line impact. Is that ultimately where we want to take this journey? The value of trust and the creation of trust is good for the customer and good for business, and it's creating that win-win. Could you maybe talk more about that traceability to bottom line impact?
Yes, Chris, this is a essential step to make. Where we live in this empirical world and world of research and numbers and data, which is good because not too long ago it was we look at the stars or we read some kind of cards or something and to figure out what's going on. So it's great as a researcher. That's music to my ears, and we certainly have to prove it empirically. So to first of all measure the numbers, sentiment, and then correlate it to business performance. Because if it's not correlated, of course, it's not. If it's not predictive, we shouldn't be tracking it or worry about it. But there's also this other mindset issue, which is, I think, one of the biggest barriers in businesses to that more humanistic approach is the belief that all you need is the numbers in the spreadsheets. And as long as they line up and as long as you manipulate this here and right away you see the outcome in the numbers here, that's all you need. It's a very mechanistic approach, which is again a mindset that dates back to the mechanistic age of when we discovered the mechanism, and it was so great that you pull a lever and then something happens here. It's fantastic, right? And it's predictable and you can control it. So I think now we're back to back to that, but now the mechanism is more the software, right? Algorithms, ones and zeros, but it's the exact same expectation. And sometimes business leaders would think, oh, is that scalable? That's not scalable. Or is it just anecdotes and you can't listen to people? They don't know what they want. They don't know what they feel. They can't tell you, or they're lying or whatever. Those mindsets then would prevent you from taking these extra steps to add that perspective of customers as humans. And And I mean, to be honest, a lot of businesses are product centric, which means operational excellence and product superiority. And if you have that, you're really gonna win, right? Because there's nobody else like that, and you're providing these great benefits for customers, and you don't have to be that personalized or that human centric in that respect. People are gonna be loyal to you because there's nobody else like you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can call that loyalty, right? I mean, in an extreme case, monopolies, right? You
Hmm.
don't have choice. I don't know if you can call that really loyalty, because to me, loyalty has this aspect of this emotional commitment that has to be there. Because if there's another competitor that pops up, a truly loyal person would say, forget it, right? The price is lower there, but I am loyal to you. Versus, oh, I jump off right away because there was no other choice before. Right. So I think going back to your question, um, it is important to understand those dynamics now because, as you said, trust as measured by many different organizations and different metrics and so on is worrisome, the state of trust. But also, I don't think there should be a blame game necessarily in terms of individuals and leaders, because the system is such that everybody's beholden to report numbers on a very short time frame, right? Every quarter. And then if that's the case, then you set a set of behaviors and a set of actions that lead to making the numbers. And many times those actions are not really in the best interest of all parties, let's say.
So Alex, that's pretty much a mindset change, but organizations will certainly respond to that if they see an economic benefit. I remember when you were talking about the operational metrics and the focus on metrics versus other aspects, the joint research we did in United Airlines, you had the classic example of United Airlines focusing on operational excellence, which, you know, all the numbers would have shown you that. But when you correlated distrust to stock price, as distrust went up and the stock price went down. So I think, and the big challenge is, how do you underwrite a business case for change in customer experience and employee experience? How do you link that to the bottom line? And I think you've some good examples where you've been able to trace that and see blockages in, the checkout cart, for example, in terms of getting that link right through to the bottom line impact. I don't know if you want to expand on that.
Yes, I will. I will, Chris. There's a comment that I do want to address.
John?
Yeah, John,
Yeah.
and I agree. I mean, I'm not making the distinction that product centric companies do not have emotionally attached customers. Of course they do. I mean, to me, in a way, I'm using the definition of customer centricity versus product centricity as defined by Professor Peter Fader from the Wharton School. And he talks about, companies like the Ford back in the day with Model T, there was no other vehicle, other thing like that. And nowadays he gives the examples of Apple, for example, and other really excellent companies with great fandom. I mean, they don't have customers, they have fans. So they are emotionally attached to that product or service. But again, the distinction here is that because of the status that brand has now, and of that following, they don't need to really personalize, or they don't really need um, to listen to their customers that much in a way, right? When you get the update from Apple, um, you just get what they give you, and you're happy with this, right? You take it. There's no, right? They don't do research for who likes these icons versus some other iconography. So in that respect, that's the distinction, right? Whereas if you really are a business that doesn't have that status and hasn't gotten to that point, you're going to have a really hard time being successful taking just that approach. And then to address your other question, Chris, about how you put this into action. Indeed, it all starts with listening to your customer. So again, the mindset of it's not only the answers are not only in the numbers, because customers are not numbers, and that's the mindset shift. And when I joined Zappos almost 10 years ago, I joined the most customer-centric company when it comes to high-touch service over the phone, customer service, high-touch customer service. But back then, nobody was reading customer comments, right? And that particular aspect wasn't in the ethos of, like, we provide absolutely great customer service for everybody, and we just are so different than other companies that's how Zappos won. And that's why Zappos is so, well known all over the world, although we just sell in the US. So that was the opportunity back then to introduce that idea of the Net Promoter Score and tracking customer sentiment, and start opened up this floodgate of customer comments that now we get over 110, 120,000 comments a year, right? And then you analyze the sentiment, not only the sentiment, but also the root cause of satisfaction and dissatisfaction. And that's a door board. That's what a door board does, really, is to get, unleash the, AI on those comments, and then figure out how people feel and why they feel a certain way. And both positive and negative matters, right? Don't dismiss all the positive comments. That's you should build on that and continue. But then when it comes to dissatisfaction, even then it may be a small number of customers, there's the opportunity to listen to them, figure out what was happening, and then fix it. So in the case of Zappos, we would have comments like, I'm trying to check out and I cannot check out for some reason. And the customer just says, I cannot check out. So then we had to retrace all the steps of what really happened. So you take it seriously, listen to that comment, then go investigate what actually happened in that session, figure out the root cause. And sometimes it's a silly little thing like a little glitch or some design oversight that was done 10 years ago or more. And then fix that, right? And then you bring the sentiment back to positive.
I suppose, Alex, in terms of then, taking that action, the Zappos adverts were famous for, someone phoning in and, shooting the breeze with them, and then, helping them order a pizza, or, helping them with all matter of facts of life. Is that ultimately, how you then acknowledge, put it right, and act as that trusted advisor? That seems to be how the Zappos way, where people were given freedom to put it right for a customer. Is that ultimately where organizations need to go with this way of operationalizing the building of trust for retention?
That's a fantastic question, Chris. And here's what I think. I think what Tony Hsieh built back 25 years ago, Tony Hsieh and the other founders of the company, and the executives who took Zappos from zero to where it's at right now, what they recognized was, back then, it was a completely new thing, a completely mode of shopping, right? Before that, everybody was using a catalog and a phone, and then they transitioned to the phone being this thing called the computer and the internet. But the issue of mistrust, right? Think about that. Back then was, well, I'm used to going to the store and the associate brings out 10 boxes and I try 2, 3, 4, and then I buy one, and then they bring the rest back. No worries, right? How do you do that with over the phone or over the internet? And they recognized that to break that barrier of trust, they implemented all these excellent return policy, extremely generous return policy and shipping, free shipping, and all of that really stood out, and including the extremely excellent and generous customer service, right? No wait time, and everything was done for the customer in that context. And so that's where the idea of hospitality comes in. And I like Danny Meyer's definition of hospitality, the famed New York restaurateur, that hospitality is when something happens for you, not to you, or when you're on your customer's side. And that to me is what distinguished and differentiated Zappos, was this spirit of generosity and spirit of humanity, right? In that respect, it wasn't no scripts. You weren't bounced around, you weren't denied, you weren't put on hold. All these techniques that are usually designed to to benefit the company exclusively. So in this case, this balance was really even much more generous and in favor of the customer, and the company would eat up all the costs. But to me, the opportunity is now not to say every company should copy that, because in a way, customer service over the phone is that worked really well years ago. Now things are evolving. The new generation of customers, they have different expectations, technology changes. To me, what's the lesson here is to take that spirit of customer service, of generosity and hospitality, and now to emulate it through technology and make it digital. And that's, you see how now you can say, how do we do that? And then you can say, well, we can use chatbots or chat GPT or AI. But that's the right sequence to say, we want to emulate that, to digitize that. How do we do it? Not, we need to use AI, we need to use chatbots. Then what do we do with them? That's the wrong sequence.
Yeah. It's almost like viewing the technology as a solution rather than, a facilitator and an enabler for what you've just talked about.
That's right. And then just to wrap this up, now our current CEO, who's a great opponent, he's been with Zappos for over 15 years. Now he's evolving to get in the new age and the new times, right? He's evolved. Tony Hsieh's statement: Zappos is a customer service company that happens to sell shoes, to Zappos is a customer experience company that happens to sell shoes. Now it's all more overarching. So your whole experience, from shopping to returning to everything, not just when you call our call center.
Superb. So just to summarize, we've had a clear kind of battle call for a new conversation about trust. And I think we've introduced the idea of thinking about measurement, which is about service leadership. It's about that, how do you create a goodwill and gratitude? And ultimately the payoff is for both customer and the organization. So Alex, over the next, the next 12 months, we're going to be going on a journey. We're speaking to some of the world's leaders in all areas of business. Our next episode is with Bruce Templin, often referred to as the godfather of CX, founded the CXPA, and a few other things as well, and most notably as the head of the XM Institute of Qualtrics. So that'll be an interesting one. He called 2024 the year of trust, and prior to that it was the year of empathy. So it seems we've hit on the right note there. And then I think what's fascinating is we're then going to be speaking to April, who's managing director of Voom for North America. This is a bike manufacturer that aims to craft joy in the experience. So it's going to be really fascinating to hear how they really put their employees first to deliver an amazing experience for the customers, and that's crafted right through to the product. So that is 28th of March for Bruce Templin. And then April from Voom is 9th of April. I didn't pick the month to rhyme our name, but we've landed with that. And also we're going to be publicizing this through the Trust Builders podcast page. So we're going to put a link in the comments here where you can go and follow that and stay up to date. And then I would hope at some time next year we'll be able to put the Trust Builders book out, Alex, and we'll commence the world tour on our speaking engagements as a bit of crack. First stop Belfast, of course. So all I have to do, I know got really fantastic people who have attended today. Some I know, like Susan and John and others. Thank you so much for taking time. Any quick questions before we wrap up? If not, we'll be letting you know in the coming days for the next episode. So any final questions? If not, maybe a quick thumbs up if you enjoyed today's session, just as a way of acknowledging the contribution for Alex. Thank you so much. And also looking forward to chatting to you in the coming weeks.
Likewise, Chris.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you. Cheers.